Welcome back to my channel where I'm building a RANS S21. Progress is really slow right now, and I apologize for not having more content out. I've really been having some issues with my light speed ignition system, and I've decided I am going to do a separate video following this about where I am with it and what the problem's been with it. But I haven't been able to close my boot cowl up because I need access to get in to work on the light speed, and that boot cowl has to be closed before I finish the engine cowling and before I move on to the roof and the doors. So everything's kind of hanging around this area. But in this video I do some things that I need to get done also before I get the boot cowl on, and just miscellaneous. I put a cow cam in for the front cowling, engine cowling. I hook up my Wig Wag wire, which I decided to use a different toggle. I'll show you how the Wig Wag hooks up. Hooked up a dimmer switch for the Garmin system, and then I also had the brake fluid again because I wanted to be able to see if I had any leaks in here. So I install the brake fluid and set the parking brake. So that's kind of what's in this video. So with that, let's jump in and start working on it. Before I install the engine cowling, I need to rivet the boot cowl. That's pretty apparent from watching some other videos. So before I rivet the boot cowl, I have a couple items left on my punch list. These are all the things I just recently did. I've got to run the video coax. This is the I bought a Natica cow cam that'll go in the engine cowling to give you that front video. And then I had to get an adapter for the back of the G3X. So I'll run that and leave the video cam up in front to be put into the cowling. Then I got to hook up a dimmer wire. My panel company put this Flight Data Systems dimmer in, and I've got a wire that says GMA 245 dimmer. And then the last thing is to form the boot cowl edges. Where the boot cowl comes down here, I've got to form the edges to form a tighter seal here before I rivet. And then I think I'm ready to rivet and move on with the engine cowling. I did a little research on this dimmer switch. This is a wire from my GMA 245, which is my control panel. And apparently the knob will control the dim. If I hook that dimmer wire up, will control the dim, not for the indicator lights, but actually for the lettering lights in the background. If you do not hook up that wire, there is a photocell here that will automatically dim it. Some people on the forum said that it's nice to have control of it so it doesn't change on you in the middle of a situation, or if sometimes it's not bright enough, you have the manual control. And to set that, apparently after I hook this up, there are a setting. I looked in the manual quickly, couldn't find it. I got to dig deeper. But there's a setting you have to set for the dimmer switch to override the photocell. So I think I will hook it up. It's here. All it is really screwing one wire into the output. This is actually a ground, goes into a ground output. Everything else is all hooked up by my panel company. So I am going to hook it up, and then I've got a second switch here, which all I have to do is run a wire from here before I close up my boot cowl and have it available. And I think I'll use that for my some panel lights that I'll put underneath. I hooked up my video camera, which is this little cow cam guy that I showed you, and all I've done is just hook the positive negative. I cut one of these small wires that said if it's a forward facing camera you cut the white wire. I went to my G3X, found in the tools where you get the video in. Appears to be working. And then I saw a recommendation or someone else, that they hooked it up to their taxi light. They get the power from their taxi light switch so that the camera comes on or is available to come on when you turn your taxi light on. That seems to make sense because So for the camera that I installed into the front cowling, I needed the hookup to the G3, which was a coax, but I also needed a power source. So what I did is, it came with a power wire, of course, is I spliced it into my landing light wire. I couldn't reach underneath there to get to the landing light toggle switch, and I didn't really have another power source that I wanted to use in conjunction. So the good news with this is that when I turn my landing light on, my taxi light will come on. So it's not running all the time, but it will run when the landing light's on, and you don't have to switch it, the G3 to read the camera, so you won't use it in landings and things like that, but it is available to be switched into the G3 display once the landing light's turned on. I'm checking my current Wigwag setup, and it looks like the way this works is the red wire from the light goes to the switch, and then there's this yellow wire, which is the Wigwag wire, but that also goes to a switch. So this would tell me one switch on for light, second switch on creates the Wigwag function, and then it just duplicates over here and tie to the second light. So it looks like I just have to run a power wire to the yellow. I've got a Wigwag toggle that I put in because I knew I remember my panel guy told me if I wanted Wigwag, I needed either a three-way switch, which I guess was off, on for one, on for two with the three positions. But they said they didn't make these switches in three-way, so we said the other option was to put a second toggle in, which would, I guess, I'm figuring out goes to that Wigwag. I also have a taxi light and a landing light switch, but I'm realizing I only have one set of lights on my wings, and I wasn't going to put a cowl light in, so I think the landing light serves as the taxi light. The reason I say that is I've got a wire run for the taxi light back there, but it goes to the same lights. There's only one set of lights back there. So I could, without having to run a separate wire for the Wigwag, which isn't run yet, which is what I was trying to do before I closed up my boot cowl, I should be able to use this taxi light wire, assuming the gauge is proper, and use that as my Wigwag. I just have to relabel this. I've got a spare toggle here, which I can, this right now is just blue taped Wigwag, so I can use this for something else. And I'm just going to make my taxi light my Wigwag light. So one switch on, landing light on for lights on. Wigwag is taxi light up. So that's going to solve a wire running problem. And I don't really have a need for another wire running back there except for the Wigwag. Trying to figure out if I can rivet this boot cowl up. Because if I do, my only access is then underneath here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add my brake fluid so I can check for any leaks pretty easily without crawling underneath. And I think I'm going to do an engine start just in case I've got to get under and fiddle with this electronic ignition. I can get access to it. That seems to be, I'm just afraid of closing this all up again. On page 105 of the text manual, all they say is to fill it from the bottom, fill the brake reservoir from the bottom, use a small handheld oil pump with a short piece of hose attached. So I followed Derek Kenny's video, which is really good, and I got from AutoZone this kind of bottle top pump. It fits both sizes. It's got two size screw caps here. And this is my brake fluid. So in theory, I'll be able to screw that on and pump it in through my valve. The tube that they provide for it is a little bit too big for the brake valve. So I found a piece of pitot tube that actually fits really tightly over that brake valve and slides inside of this, but it wasn't tight enough to create a seal. So I had a little clamp, but that's the smallest one I had. That was too big. I didn't have one of these little pinching clamps, so I took a zip tie and really just squeezed the heck out of it, and I got it pretty tight. So I think that's enough to form enough airtight seal, and this end slips right over the valve. And it seems like it's pumping in, although I've got some air. Well, I'm making a little mess. I got to clean that up. Well, that's my zip tie solution is not formed enough of a seal. In my second try, I took some pipe tape and wrapped it around the pitot tube and kind of twisted it in there to create a seal, and this one is actually working. So I've got no air in the hose, and as my pumps, I've got about 8 pumps. There's a pump. It just come on up. It seems to be working. I seem to be putting fluid in. After about 7 or 8 pumps, I could hear some gurgling up here in my tank reservoir. I took a piece of pitot tube, dropped it in there, and I've got it coming up into the reservoir. So I've got maybe, I don't know, a ½ inch up into here. So I'll do the other brake line on the other side. It should mean that since it's coming up backwards, it's going through all my brake cylinders and then feeds up into the tank. So it should mean that these are all filled. So I'll work on the other side. Okay, in checking the toe brakes, they seem full. They used to go all the way down. Now they're pretty stiff. The other thing is the parking brake. Remember, the parking brake's down here. Now I've still got that rubber tube on there that when I put the parking brake on, I said I would have to cut that tube based on the needed length. I've got a parking brake issue. The brake handle does not have any resistance on it anywhere through the travel as I go up and down. Okay, I have solved my parking brake issue. Unlike in a Cessna, when you pull the parking brake handle and that sets the brake, this is actually not that type of system. This is a valve, and it holds the pressure when applied. So to set this parking brake, you apply toe brake pressure to both brakes. Once you've got the brakes applied, then you pull the handle, and that locks the pressure into the brakes. Well, there was a final post on the forum question, and it said that this valve, or this handle, which controls the valve, has to stop at 90 degrees to fully engage the valve. Tony from RANS says it's in 45-degree increments. So all the way up is not the right position, which is what I had just recently installed at. Fortunately, I've got a piece of this rubber tubing that creates a stopgap when I cut that one, which is longer than the one that's there. So I'm going to reinstall this into a 90-degree position. Okay, it's a good place to stop. That episode only took 7.4 hours of wiring and miscellaneous stuff. The next episode, I'm really going to jump into this light speed issue that we've been having troubles with. I've got an email out to Klaus right now to see at Lightspeed to see where we go next, and by the time I put the next episode out, hopefully we'll have a solution to it. And then I also need to clean up the wire mess. So you go on and you work and you work and you work, and at some point you just got to start untangling the mess and sorting and cleaning up before you put the boot cowl on and close everything up. So I've got everything pretty well marked and labeled. I just need to straighten it out, put some Adele clamps in there, and straighten out the mess of wires. So with that, thanks very much for watching, and remember, dream it, just build it.